Like most gamers, I have fond memories of the games I played as a kid. And for most of my childhood, I was almost exclusively a Nintendo kid. Yeah, I played a handful of games on PlayStation 1 and 2, and spent some time on the PC with World of Warcraft, but it was my Nintendo consoles which I spent the most time playing before I fell down the rabbit hole of online gaming as a teenager, and I was completely obsessed with Pokemon and Nintendo games. To the point that even to this day, my mom buys me Mario and Pokemon t-shirts for my birthday and other holidays because those are just the things she remembers me loving. But you know, like most kids, I did start to move on as I got older. I got into Halo and Call of Duty in middle school, developed a crippling addiction to League of Legends and the Souls titles just before starting high school, and found myself burnt out and losing interest in games at the ripe old age of 20. Now I obviously found my way back to games, and have more passion for them now than ever. But my point is that for a long time, I lost whatever interest I once had in Nintendo. As I was growing up and trying other games, Nintendo was entering their flop era with the Wii U, and by the time they'd started to turn things around, my interest in console games, and especially Nintendo games, was at an all-time low. The Nintendo Switch was the first console or handheld since the Game Boy Advance that I didn't get at launch. Hell, I even had a Game Boy Micro, and when I finally did get a Switch, I really didn't enjoy it much. By that point, I'd become too much of a performance snob and found Breath of the Wild to be incredibly disappointing. I maybe got 10 hours out of it. It wasn't until a couple of years later that the Switch would reignite my interest in JRPGs with my introduction to Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Despite not finishing the first one back on the Wii or being a huge fan of JRPGs outside of Pokemon, I was inexplicably drawn to it. Jokes aside, I picked it up on a whim and ended up really loving my time with it, and because those games are so damn long and require so much time to get all the way through, I finally stopped spending all my time watching other people talk about games and started playing them again, which was a major step towards regaining my passion for games as a whole. Go figure. However, most of the games I'd go on to play after that weren't available on the Switch or didn't run very well on it, and so it wasn't until the release of Monster Hunter Rise that I begrudgingly booted up the old paperweight out of necessity. And by that I mean, I got completely obsessed with the game and even traded my Switch for the Monster Hunter one and got all of the amiibos imported from Japan. Yeah, it was a bit much. But as it always does, my ADHD eventually moved on to a different fixation, and my Switch began gathering dust once again. And then I discovered Splatoon 3. Now to make a long story short, Splatoon 3 is in many regards responsible for the existence of this channel. It's how I met my best friend Lemon and a number of other awesome people, and it's what inspired me to start streaming. And when I was ready to move on to something new, having built a small community of Nintendo-oriented fans, Tears of the Kingdom became the first game I ever attempted to make an edited video essay about. This is all to say that for all their ups and downs, and for all the ways I've become jaded with Nintendo over the years, their games have in many ways had more impact on me and the direction of my life than any others. And even now, Nintendo once again has me reevaluating my relationship with video games. Now, I'll be the first to admit that upon its official reveal, I was pretty damn cynical about the Switch 2. I don't know if I just woke up in a bad mood or what, but I was thoroughly unimpressed by the whole thing. Though, I'm not gonna lie, part of that may have been down to thinking that at the time I wouldn't be able to get one because I do whatever this is full-time and I'm broke as hell. I only have one now because my mom bought it for me with money she won at a slot machine the day before launch, and no, I'm not kidding. I'm sure there's a joke about a gacha game in there somewhere, but I digress. All this to say that I was not terribly excited for the Switch 2 or the games coming to it. It felt as though my nostalgia and appreciation for Nintendo were both well and truly dead. But then, the other night, I was up late playing Mario Kart World, just knocking out the different Grand Prix. And as I was racing around my now favorite track in the game, taking in the wonderful visuals and the amazing music, I was hit with an overwhelming wave of joy and nostalgia. And for just a moment, I felt like a kid again. I remember what it was like to play and appreciate a game for the simple fact that it's just really fucking fun. Now, there are definitely a number of issues with Mario Kart World which have pretty much been summarized already by another content creator, and I'll link that down below or in the description. But in short, I generally think the game feels a little bit too slow, the sections between tracks and the routes for the Knockout Tour mode are a little uninteresting, and the items are a bit too powerful. If I were to write my own review of Mario Kart World, I'd talk about all of it in more detail and try to come to a conclusion on where I feel it succeeds and fails as a racing game and as a Mario Kart title. But for all the ways I could criticize or analyze Mario Kart World, when faced with the quality of my experience as a whole and how much joy it's brought me, I just can't help but wonder what's the point, man? Like, it feels like a sterile breakdown of a game's strengths and weaknesses, as if any of that could capture what makes the game special. So what if it's not the most balanced racing game, or if the knockout tours aren't as good as the actual tracks, which are amazing by the way? I don't love the open world, but it's not taking anything away from me, and I know that as a kid I probably would have loved it. After all, I remember a time when my schoolyard friends and I would talk about what it'd be like to go beyond the levels of all our favorite games. At the end of the day, my takeaway from Mario Kart World is that it's a beautifully presented and incredibly fun experience that delivers on all the joy and wonder that makes a Nintendo game a Nintendo game. This isn't to say that I think the fun and joy of Nintendo games puts them above criticism, not at all. But as someone who has had plenty of criticism for Nintendo and their games over the years, and as someone thoroughly sick of content creators and critics who don't seem to actually like video games or have any respect for the people who make them, my experience with Mario Kart World has made me realize that maybe I was missing the forest for the trees when it comes to Nintendo games. Because what exactly is my job as a critic? To be like a video game focused version of Consumer Reports that helps you decide how to spend your money? Maybe that's what people want and expect from critics, but that's nowhere in the definition, and frankly, I think my viewers deserve better. A critic's job is not to recommend products, it is to judge the merits of an artistic work. And I would much rather do that in terms that help you connect with and understand games so you can enjoy and appreciate them as much as I do. And if you disagree, that's perfectly fine. There are plenty of people and other channels you can go to if you want to be told how to spend your money. I just don't think that's a meaningful way to spend my time or yours. After all, I've grown a lot in the last couple of years, and I look back at my first video and its focus on criticism with a healthy mix of shame and embarrassment. Because in the time since making that video, my understanding of and appreciation for games have increased substantially, unlike my video production skills. And the thing is, I don't feel like my criticisms of Tears of the Kingdom were wrong. The game's performance was pretty awful, there was a complete and total lack of challenge, and the story was told in a fashion that worked against its design as an open-world game. I stand by all of that to this day, but now I also believe that on some level, those criticisms missed the point. Not because they're inaccurate or made in bad faith, but because I know now that I was judging Tears of the Kingdom more for what I wanted it to be than for what it was actually trying to be. And in recognizing that, I've been faced with my own hypocrisy, because that is exactly what I've criticized other critics and content creators for doing. And in the days since, I've been wrestling with the realization that being a formerly jaded Nintendo kid prevented me from meeting their games on their own terms. So having been inspired by Mario Kart World to reconsider how I've treated Nintendo games in recent years, I decided to give both Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom another chance. While I'm still slowly working my way through Breath of the Wild, I can already say for certain that I'm learning to appreciate it in ways I never did before. Admittedly, I've always considered Breath of the Wild a massively overrated game, and while I think that's probably still somewhat true just because people like to exaggerate, I'm starting to understand why fans have so much love for it. A big part of my newfound appreciation for the game comes from simply being in the world and taking in the vibe. However, there's no denying that this is in part due to the massive visual and performance improvements featured in the Switch 2 version. Nevertheless, in taking my time with the game and trying to focus on what it does best rather than what I wish it did differently, I've been having a completely different and substantially better experience with it than ever before. And in playing the game this way, with this mindset, I keep coming back to the same question. Shouldn't I play every game this way? After all, if my goal is to help you connect with games, then it only seems natural for me to prioritize finding what a game does well over everything else. All art is flawed, all games are flawed, and so frankly I don't think it takes any meaningful experience or skill to find and identify those flaws. We don't fall in love with great games because they're flawless. We fall in love with great games because the incredible experiences they can offer supersede and outweigh their flaws. And so shouldn't that be the true goal of a critic? To use our experience and familiarity with the medium to find, identify, and express any and all ways a game might be a uniquely wonderful experience? And if I, as a critic, genuinely don't enjoy a game or have anything good to say about it, then maybe I'm just not the best person to be talking about that game. With the launch of the Switch 2, Nintendo has given me multiple reasons to think more deeply about my feelings toward their games and my responsibilities as a critic. But more importantly, they've made me think about my relationship with the past and the impact that has had on me in the present. And just as I was finishing up this video, Nintendo for the first time in years made me genuinely excited about their future. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, then don't forget to like, subscribe, and ding the little bell if you want to be notified when my next video goes live. That's all for now, folks. Thanks again, and see you next time.